know. We all have hand sanitizer. I don't know. I don't think they're on.
No. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Special meeting of Board of County Commissioners. Notice the meeting was properly posted on May 13th, 2020. We have the roll call. All three commissioners are present in person. Welcome back, and welcome myself back, I guess, to the meetings in person. We have only one item on the agenda from the Emergency Response Committee. Who is here on behalf of the committee? Mr. Barnes, if you would mind to discuss where we're at and the decision points.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioners. Welcome back. We have met as a committee twice today already to evaluate what we might call a reopening today. And discussion has been very favorable. In support of the Sheriff's Office, who has a significant presence. They've done a tremendous job for us. In cooperation with multiple elected officials, excuse me, their staffs and offices and personnel. We had a very early start this morning, about 6:30. Set up some parameters out front to help assist in guiding potential crowds should they show up. And fortunately, we planned, as you know, plan for the worst and hope for the best. And we plan for a substantial number of folks coming in today, which we did not experience. Estimate I've got from the front, I do not know about the courthouse, but from the front, we're looking for about 500 folks, which is roughly a couple hundred more than what we've been on. We've been averaging about 260 to 280 through the front, so we did not see the significant increase we've had before. As far as recommendation, excuse me, from the Emergency Response Committee, it hadn't been formalized. We did discuss it as such in our last meeting, which just concluded a few minutes ago, but it was definitely a consensus in the discussion that our recommendation would be that we continue to move forward in the same direction, same path we have now. We did not have significant hiccups, malfunctions in any area that we're aware of. We were monitoring from multiple sites. My entire staff is on site, and one volunteer who was a big help with us today. And I was bouncing back and forth between the sites, and I know staff members from other elected offices, BOCC in particular, we're going back and forth, and we're talking with people involved. The reports and the information that we're both observing and receiving has been quite favorable. I believe we've done quite well today.
I have just one question and or observation, and I don't have a hard and fast position on this, but there's going to be an even bigger influx of people, certainly June 1, and possibly before that. You know, the last decision that was made was that people were not required to wear masks in kind of the public areas, but in the elevators, there were. Obviously, it's not really possible to socially distance in an elevator. One observation, though, is I know that we've been handing out some masks, and there's you know, I understand there might have been a potential legal question about that, but even if that was not an issue, There's at some point, handing out masks to the entire world obviously is not possible. And at some point, we're going to deplete our own supply, et cetera. I wonder if has it been discussed, or would it be appropriate to visit about this question? I do think people should be encouraged to wear masks on the elevators. There's also a question of the enforceability of that. I wonder, we have more than one elevator, and I wonder if it would be possible to have, I'm thinking of when there's more people in the building, have one elevator in which it is not required, and then reserving the other elevators for only people with masks. That way you are still rewarding people effectively by probably getting faster transport time for wearing a mask, which I think is appropriate. But we are looking at the reality that many people that are entering the courthouse do not have masks, and that at some point we can't afford to give out masks to literally everybody that comes in. I don't know at what point that occurs, but I wonder if we would consider that that possibility. So I don't know, has that been discussed?
Not in specifics. We have had extensive discussion on multiple occasions about subdividing and performing methodology similar to what you're talking about. There's several contributing factors to that. The mask issue, we do have enough masks on hand to carry us into the board and probably a couple of weeks, depending on the number of people that come in. We've seen the vast majority of folks have been coming in with a mask, although we've issued close to 3,000 masks, but a lot of those are in-house. For example, sent 1,100 over to presiding Judge Elliott. I know that everybody going into that facility that did not have a mask was offered a mask at that time. So those numbers, when speculated, are still likely quite consistent as what he has on hand. So they've been distributed around. Those have not been exhausted by any means, just because of the sheer numbers that have come in. A lot of the discussion in regard to what you're talking about, possibly identifying a specific elevator for a specific purpose. If we have large numbers of people downstairs, a lot of the discussion has been that attempting to separate different functions in different places, particularly with the large numbers of people, would turn into a logistical challenge of significant proportion. People not understanding, people not supporting whatever is part of that. And certainly, I'm in favor of all the rules. This is the rule: protect yourself, protect other people. I get that. Our committee gets that very well. But the reality of it is, even today, we had people on some elevators. We had one elevator, for example, was dedicated to employees only, the freight elevator. We converted that today just for employees only. You can come in actually through the alley, the west gate, which we're doing. They wouldn't even have to enter the facility and go up and down. Yet it was still observed that at one point, the elevator came down, 4 or 5 people who were not employees got off of it, none of them wearing a mask. And in that elevator, there's multiple signs. You must wear a mask to ride this ride. And it's an enforcement issue, as you alluded to. While it's certainly recommended practice, and we've got signage all over here, all over the parking garage, the portable road sign out front is talking about it. And that's quite saturated in terms of the guidance. People are still going to not pay attention, not read, whatever, and there's still going to be cases where they don't follow those rules. Since there is no hard, fast way to enforce that, nor do we want to turn that into, obviously, a police action, no pun intended, that's not what we're about, where we're going. We're making recommendations to folks, but to identify one elevator for a specific purpose, the remainder for other purposes, keeping that in alignment and having people follow that guidance would honestly present a significant challenge.
Would it present any more significant challenge than what we're doing now? I guess what I'm looking at is the reality of enforcement. I don't think we can legally do so. I do think that one, perhaps effective way of not enforcing it but encouraging it would be, peer pressure. Those who are wearing masks and are doing that are going to maybe suggest to people, hey, the elevator for people without masks is over there. Can't do that now. So it's kind of harsh now to say, look, you don't have a mask, go schlep it up the stairs 7 flights, okay? But if there's another option that's, more amenable to people, like, hey, that elevator over there, then it would seem to me that, simple, peer pressure, if you will, would help separate that. It's not foolproof. You have some people who are, that doesn't work or who get on before they, nothing's going to be foolproof. But I just wondered if that would be a way to do it. Again, I don't have a hard and fast position on it, but I can see that, something that is absolutely not enforceable is not as good as something that is enforceable by social opprobrium, if you will, which I think now it's not really possible to do that because it's not practical to expect somebody who doesn't have a mask in many cases to walk in, especially if they're on one of the upper floors. Whereas if there was at least one elevator available for folks in that situation, it would seem to me more amenable to do it. Anyway, just an observation as I, came in and took a look at it, and it's something that we should consider. If not right now, then going forward as the volume in the courthouse expands, particularly June 1. So I don't know if you have any observations about that or anybody else who is present and has been in on those meetings, but it's just an observation.
I do not personally have an observation other than what I've shared about the difficulties that have been expressed to us of, one, the inability to enforce, and then two, having a special set of circumstances. I certainly understand your point. And I can see where somebody, well, if you don't want to wear a mask, then you can ride this elevator.
Yeah, just ride the elevator across the hall, across the area.
Mr. Barnes, can you remind us on a normal day, pre-COVID, how many people are coming in and out of the courthouse?
Oh, I honestly don't have that number.
Like if we have 500 today and that's still not even close to normal, I think someone has said this before and I can't remember. I know it's well over 1,000.
Yes, we looked at this when we were discussing elevator operations, and there were as many as 4,000 people a week.
Yeah.
Kind of depending on
What trials are going on and all of that. Okay. Okay.
Like, I know some of the dockets are limited at this point, but those will be expanding. And so that being the case, and June 1, I think, is the date at which a lot of that will expand. If it's 4,000 a week normally, and there was, you said 500 today?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, about a 40% increase roughly that we're probably anticipating, and that's going to, we may be good at the current rate for a couple of weeks on giving away masks, but once the volume increases, I don't know that we will be able to keep up. And so, especially since you might have somebody who, economists call it moral hazard. If you can give them a mask first time, and then they'll leave and go do something, and when they come back, they'll forget their mask, and they'll expect us to give another one because they did it before. And so, just as a practical matter, I'm thinking that if we should consider, again, not necessarily today, but at some point, having some other way to encourage that, people to bring their own masks and to wear those on the elevators by providing an alternative for those that don't, and yet while still encouraging people to because they'll have access to more than one elevator and probably get quicker rides. Just a thought.
Certainly bring that to the committee and discuss it.
So is there any other questions or action on this matter?
I think we keep doing what we're doing.
Okay, well, if there is no action on the matter, I don't know that we need to strike it. We'll have I guess we can bring it up again at the next commissioner meeting, just kind of keep an eye on it. Next item then would be, thank you, Mr. Barnes.
You're welcome.
That would be commissioner comments. District 1. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
And move we adjourn?
Second.
All those, are we voting on the machines? No. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.